Hello everyone, this is RC0538, and I'm bringing you our next class of units. Instead of going for the 90 more, we're going between the 45 points to 85 point units. First we have the AMX-30B2 Brennus. The Brennus is a great defensive tank. It's also a good or decent support tank. However, it doesn't have a stabilizer. This is a problem with basically all French tanks, with the exceptions of the AMX-32, the AMX-40, and the later Leclerc line that we already covered in the last video. So you're looking at a severely limited mobility for any French tanks. Now they do have great speed, good autonomy, and fair size. They're not as big. The reason I say they have poor mobility is because they cannot fire on the move at all. The only way they'll be able to fire on the move is if they're in range of the autocannon mounted right here on the side. So yeah, that's definitely an issue. However, they make great snipers, great anti-vehicle units. For 65 points, 16 armor penetration on the gun with this accuracy at that range, you're looking at a very formidable unit in a defensive position. Then we have the AMX-32 and the AMX-40. AMX-40, if you want to take the upgrade, it's just up to you. You get some more speed and you get some more armor, and that's really the only upgrades that you get. And you get a bit better gun. AMX-32, both of these, though, are great tanks. Both have medium optics, and they both maintain the autocannon of the MX-30, but the AMX-40 and 32 have a stabilizer, which, thank you, because really, it's really hard to fight in a modern battlefield without a stabilizer. The Centurion line, I personally am not the biggest fans of. However, the Mark V 2DK, these I can kind of tolerate. You use them right, you can really do well with them. Use them in a defensive position, though, or inside of a forest and have them on attack move. They're good vehicle killers, but not good tank killers. That's what I've learned with them. Leopard AS1s, and while we're at it, we'll just cover all the Leopards that are in this line, I guess. But the Leopards are... The Leopard 1 line is kind of a defensive, mobile, medium tank. It's not really a main battle tank like the Abrams. It's not really a main battle tank, at all. It's not a cavalry tank. It just sits somewhere in the middle. It's got much better mobility than the Brennus, and you're looking at about the same stats. Let's compare them real quick. You're looking at having better rate of fire, but worse speed, worse armor, and so all of those sort of things kind of add up, and you don't get the autocannon that the Brennus has. However, the Leopard 1 line is pretty common, so get used to it if you're on Red 4 or Blue 4. Just get used to seeing it and figure out how to fight it. The biggest weakness of any Leopard 1 is going to be its armor. The armor on all of the Leopard 1 lines are pretty abysmal. I mean, they're okay, but they only have 10 armor, so they can pack a punch, but they can't take one. So that's kind of the best way to handle them. However, they make good support tanks in forests because of their mobility. They can also do pretty quick charges across open fields, so they can close the distance fast, but I wouldn't recommend using them that way. The best way to use these guys is kind of on a ridge and supporting your units from afar. Next we have the KPZ-70 and the MBT-70. Both of these fill similar roles, but that aren't the same at all. And I say that just because they're a lot different. MBT-70 is going to be a pure anti-infantry killer. It can kill light vehicles and tanks if you get lucky with that, with the ATGM on it, but really the best role for it is going to be in forests and supporting your tanks against infantry. You've got 5 HE power on the gun, you've got good accuracy with a decent stabilizer, use it for that. The biggest reason why the gun isn't that good is because it only fires high explosive anti-tank, which normally would be good, but it doesn't go up in armor penetration value as you proceed to get closer to the target. The KPZ-70 doesn't get that 5 HE power, however what you do get is a gun with kinetic power, so you can actually use this as an anti-vehicle infantry support weapon in forest even more effectively than the MBT-70 can, because it doesn't get better armor penetration as you close the distance. So I really like the KPZ-70. Both of these are good because they have the same autocannons. The autocannon makes them a lot more effective. They're going to be able to engage both of them at, use both at the same time, unlike the AMX-30 Brennus, because the autocannon is mounted in a separate area. It's mounted over here, instead of being mounted simultaneously along the side. Okay. Once again, Leopard 1 line, it just all depends on them. The Leopard 1s are great tanks. This one particularly, but just remember they have pretty low armor. This is the exception, because it's probably one of the best Leopard 1s in the game, along with the Leopard C2 Mexus that Canada has. Comparing both of these are much better in a main battle tank role, because they actually have decent armor, and they're also very fast. Mexus particularly, I've killed T-64s, I've killed quite a bit of things with the Mexus because of its excellent stats. This is a main battle tank, not a sniper tank. Then you have the Leopard 2, just the normal Leopard 2 from the 1979. Very good tank. It's a best tank BLUEFOR will get in a era game pre-1980. It's a great tank. I'd highly recommend using it. You get good armor penetration with good ground and range and excellent accuracy, both stable and on the move. Just remember that it doesn't have the best optics, so like any tank, always make sure you have recon with it. Next, you have the early M1 Abrams line. The M1 IP Abrams can do really well in a decent anti-tank role, and it's also good at killing enemy vehicles. The normal M1 Abrams is probably what I would recommend for maybe force support against tanks. You're in a very good position with the M1 Abrams. All the M1 Abrams have an M2 Browning and an M240. Both of these combined mean you have a decent anti-infantry power against them. However, with a main gun such as this, it's a bit undergunned, and so because of that, you're going to have issues dealing with Red 4 tanks at long range, but you have to close the gap, you see, using the Abrams. Next, we have the oldest line in U.S. military history, the M48. This is the South Korean M48. You also have the M60 era, the M60A3, and the Super M60 that the Army experimented with. These are okay. The M60 is just okay. And if I might elaborate on that a bit, you're looking at with the M60 A1 ERA, it's a decent tank, but it's just not going to be the best option. I usually just go all Abrams with an M8 AGS, and that's good enough for me. I don't really see much of a need to bring an M60 A1 ERA. However, if you're using a U.S. Marine deck, bring these. These are great tanks for holding down a position. Think of them like the Leopards of the United States. They just do an excellent job in that role. Next, you also have the M60A3 Patent, which is inferior. It has a worse gun and less armor, but they still do decent at close range. So yeah, they're decent tanks, but just keep them, close to the fighting. They're not going to do well farther away. And then kind of I guess you could say the in-between. It's interesting. The Super M60 is kind of okay, but also not. It doesn't have it has, the one advantage that an M60 will have over the Abrams line is that it does have better rate of fire. You're looking at 10 rate of fire compared to 9. And so because of that, you do sit in a better position of engaging enemy units, because you'll be able to get a couple extra shots off. The Super M60 has a good stabilizer at 40%, but it has less armor penetration than the others. So they're kind of mixed bags. I don't like them as much. I mean, for 60 points in the Super M60, you may get some more armor penetration, but with the Abrams you have more armor, so you can close the distance better. But like I said, they're all kind of mixed bags. They're not the best, but they're not the worst. So, make your own decision, try them out, make your own decision. Not my favorite. I usually don't take these, but that's just my style. Next, we have the Nanayon Shiki line. Now, these are kind of the Japanese Leopards. I know I'm making that comparison a lot, but these have a lot less armor than the Leopards, than any Leopard. But they do have better guns. They fire in kind of a burst almost. They fire boom, boom, boom. you know, I don't know how else to describe it. And the Nanyon Shiki G is the only tank in the game to have a grenade launcher mounted on it. This makes it very effective. Very effective at killing off enemy infantry. And this gun is devastating because it's accurate. It is just excellent. So you're looking at having low armor on this thing, though. So heavy tank blinks at this thing. It's, you know, the heavy tank spots this thing, shoots, it hits, this thing is dead. And you're paying 60 points for it. Just remember that. So you're looking at a pretty expensive tank with low armor. So just keep that in mind. My favorite member of the Centurion line, that's going to be the SCRV 105. They fixed the biggest issue with the Centurion line, which is its speed and autonomy. If we go back up to like the other Centurions, this one for example, it's better than most of the Centurions. The SCRV 105 though is far superior to any of the others, and the SCRV 105 is excellent at providing good support. So I highly recommend trying the SCRV 105. It's a great infantry support against against tanks at range or at vehicles. So they're very good. SCRV 104 is kind of the same thing, only it is slightly slower, which makes it kind of better in forest. But they're both excellent main battle tanks. They're more like, not to say glass cannons, but they are compared to other tanks. High accuracy with good armor penetration, but they're not going to survive much. And then finally we have earlier lines, I should say, of the SCRV 103s. Now these earlier lines are okay. This is going to be best in a fire support role, honestly. It's not likely to hit much, but you can put down a lot of fire, and you can sometimes get some kills on enemy units. It's possible, but don't put these toe-to-toe with heavy tanks. The 103C is better. You know, I like the 103C a lot. Comparing it to the 103D, you're not going to see a lot of change except for the armor, bit better gun and such, stuff like that. But the 103C is a great mid-tier option for Sweden. And wow, we've made it through all of these tanks. Oh, except for the Centurion line. They're kind of the precursors to the Challenger line. They're the jump between the Centurion and the Challenger. You're looking at having better guns. Great gun for 19 armor penetration for an 80-point unit. It's very good. But the armor is okay. 14 still kind of on the fence. But the problem is that these things are dead slow on when they're not on the road. 45 kilometers an hour on a main battle tank for 80 points is an issue. Makes them great at defending points. I mean, they've got armor to pretty much stand up to, they can stand up to a lot of, armor, a lot of beating. Maybe not as much as I would hope, but they can stand up to it pretty well. But getting them out of trouble is going to be a major issue if they do encounter something that's much more, capable of killing them than these guys are of killing them. So, you're in a tight spot. So anyways, guys, we went over this kind of part of the NATO main battle tanks. I hope you guys enjoyed, found it interesting. This is RC0538 signing off.